Okay, so this is part two of industrialism. I left off in that last video here, just starting to look at this picture here, and I mentioned that there's lots going on, and there certainly is. And what we're looking at here, I mean, you can see, my gosh, look at all of this material that's here on the ground. And what are these things? Well, these are what were called artillery shells, and this is a munitions factory. So this factory here, you can see enormous thing, stockpiling. I don't know. I mean, thousands and thousands of these artillery shells. Well, artillery shells are one of the sort of atypical weapons that were introduced in World War One for the first time. Think of sort of a modern version of a cannonball. But the artillery shell was vastly more destructive. And the shell itself, you could see here, this metallic casing, it was packed with explosive powder and metal fragments, metal ball bearings, and that sort of thing. And that added to the destructiveness, the deadly nature of the device when it exploded. Now, these things were fired from long-range artillery cannons, which we'll look at a little later, that could fire these things at great distance, 40, 50, 60 kilometers away. So targets that they couldn't even see. And these cannons would be way in behind what were called the trenches, the front lines. Now, you could imagine a device like this here, a shell being fired at great distance, high rate of speed. They were very heavy. They were measured in terms of weight typically. And obviously, the heavier the shell, the more destructive it would be and hold more fragments. And when these things would detonate, there would be a tremendous release of heat, as well as the sort of a sonic quality that exists with any explosion that has very deadly effects. But the metal fragments inside here would spray out. Imagine a water balloon sort of hitting the ground. That spray. So there would be a blast radius, and these metal fragments would be flying through the air at a high rate of speed. And all the while, they were searingly hot, and they would be transforming in shape. They'd be melting. And the edges, as they would melt, would become razor sharp and then harden as they were cooled through the air. And these metal fragments here just cut through men. They got lodged into their bodies. And some of the more ghastly and disfiguring wounds that define this war were the result of exploding shrapnel from these things, artillery shells. In addition to this picture is interesting because we also have here, as you can see, women working in this factory. And this was a massive departure for women. Never before had women worked in factories, factory-like settings, to this point. And you can think about maybe why. Why were women all of a sudden thrown into this role? Well, the simple answer is necessity. The majority of men that were able-bodied had volunteered to serve in the war. And somebody had to fill the roles here of producing war material, and women were called into factories to perform those duties. And, the effect of that we'll see after the war is fairly significant. All right. This is a big groundbreaking movement here for women beginning to look at themselves differently. And it's certainly empowering as they realize that, hey, we can do some of these things here that men otherwise are telling us we can't do. And that's an issue we'll explore later on. All right. But at the base level here, we're talking here about industrialism and how this contributes to the war, because these European countries that are all very packed together in this small continent, they are all industrial powers of some sort. So all of the countries in Europe have some degree here of industrial weapons, making this an industrial war, okay, for the first time.